Alright folks, today I wanted to tell you about a new thing that I have been playing around with that I'm calling roaming RAG. It's basically a new form of RAG where if you have a well-structured document, you can get away without having to use like any search infrastructure. And the premise is pretty simple. Effectively, all you have to do, it's kind of like in the olden days when the internet was a directory structure, and if you wanted to figure out how you could change the oil for your car, you go to the automotive section, followed by maintenance, followed by oil change. It worked really horrible for organizing the internet, but if you have a well-structured document or a set of documents, it's actually a pretty good way of finding your way through it. Think about how you find information in a book. You look it up in the table of contents, you find the right chapter and section, and you try a few times and you're probably going to find what you want. Turns out there's a lot of documents that actually work that way. So legal code is a good example. Titles and chapter sections, technical books, like I just said, product owners manuals, curriculum, syllabi, corporate policy manuals, lots of stuff. The more you look, the more examples of this you'll find. So let's throw together a demo. And now in this demo, we're going to use a new type of document that has this nice, well-ordered structure called LLMs.txt. It is a proposal from Jeremy Howard that the proposals here, I won't go show you just the page of the people that are adopting it because it's got a lot of good examples. Basically, kind of like robots.txt, it's a way of allowing LLMs, robots in this case, to understand what your website's about. So you'll find a lot, the documents themselves look like this. It's just markdown documents that help a large language model to read this and quickly know where to look up more information and do kind of like the hop type behavior that I'm talking about. All right. So before I show you how it works, let's take an example of using roaming RAG to investigate Cursor's LLMs.txt. Cursor's LLMs.txt is right here. I'll keep it open. But like I said, it's just a bunch of sections that talk about, custom API keys, models, all the important stuff with, different subsections to talk about the details. And I've created a demo right here that you guys can play with where as soon as the system loads, this is after we asked a few questions, but as soon as the system loads, it loads the LLMs.txt. Now the catch is it doesn't load everything because it's a very long document, and having all the irrelevant content is going to be distracting to the LLM. But instead it loads effectively an abridged summary of the LLMs.txt. It has all the first little headings in there, and if it fits, it has the first 100 or so characters of the opening text and has the titles of all the subsections, though they are missing their subtext. But as a human, you can look through this and you can kind of figure out, maybe I should click on this. We're doing the same thing for the large language models. In this case, we ask, how does Cursor's tab autocomplete feature differ from GitHub Copilot? And then we can see the model think through it. It is reading this document. It says, let me check on this. I'm going to open this section called Overview. I think I better also open this section called Migrate from GitHub. And it's got, a bit of content in here that it's figured out that it's learning from. And then it takes that content and writes a nice response. Based on the information from these two sections, here are all the ways that our implementation is distinct. And it's good content, and I've double-checked that it is actually founded. It's grounded in the information there. If you guys would like to, I encourage you to come to this page and try the demo for yourself. You just click here. It's got a drop down. It'll tell you, you can pick any of these sources that you find interesting. It'll load up the abridged version of their LLMs text. There's a few questions down here that you can ask. You click, and it takes a little while to process, but it'll get back through you with the content. Sorry, I'm not doing the streaming content. Now, for those of you that actually want to get into the nitty-gritty, let's talk for a moment about how it's implemented. First things first is it's not going to work if you don't have the well-organized document. Vector search is wonderful. Lexical search is great as well. And you need that if you've just got a pile of content. But if you have a document that has titles and headings that are clear, self-explanatory titles, if the sections all kind of belong together, the nesting makes sense, so that you could logically find the information that you're looking for. And if there aren't just like a ton of top level headings, then you're probably in a good spot. So once you have one of these documents, then if you wanted to look at the code, which I also have linked down here later, we first process it and create this abridged document. So I had cursor open right here. Let's look at it again. Cursor has custom API keys and has all of this content. When I abridge it, apparently they rearranged some stuff. When I abridge it, I am taking each section and doing exactly what I said. If there is some content below the heading, then I'm including it. And then if there's subheadings, then I'm including them. But what you didn't see in the demo above, that the LLM does get to see, is this comment helping text at the end of every section heading. This section is collapsed, and you can use expand section with this hexadecimal identifier, and you can open this section. So that's all it sees. But as a human, you could look through that and you understand that what you would need to do if you're going to find stuff. And it works the same for an LLM. So a few things to look at here. Most of this I've already covered, actually. The one little tidbit that I haven't covered is that each one of these sections gets a unique hexadecimal identifier. And I found that LLMs actually work really well with identifiers like that. I used to be concerned that it would just fabricate some hexadecimal, but in practice it just basically doesn't. It's really good at saying, okay, this is exactly what you want. So based on this format, you see that we also have alluded to this expand section tool. It's very straightforward. Expand section, it says if you provide this hexadecimal identifier, I'll open this up for you. And the implementation to it is that I'm using artifacts, which is from a previous blog post. You don't have to use artifacts, but basically it says I'm going to take the content in that section and open up a summarized version of that. Now, most of the time, you don't have to summarize it. It's actually the full content. But if you have a lot of documentation, I mean, the summarization works in a nested sense. So you can just like iteratively unfold, and go from a massive amount of information to the information that you really need in just a couple of hops. So it's really a neat way of doing this. And then, yep, I link out to the code. I hope you guys get a chance to look at it. In action, there's a lot of cool things that the LLM can do. Once it reads this document, it can choose to open one section. It can choose to open several sections that it thinks might can help. It can do this in parallel. It can say, I think these three sections are probably going to help, open them all up. It can do one at a time, think, no, that's not what I want, and just go through it in sequence until it finds the things it needs. If you have deep nesting, then the assistant can open up the section it thinks it wants and go further and further. And then notice that the way that I'm shaping the summarizations here, at the top level, you can see all of the top level headings, but within them, since I've kept them around, you can also see one level deeper of those headings. So the assistant actually can choose to expand this top level section, but can also skip into the subsections as well. So that'll give it an opportunity to skip a step if it thinks it needs to. There are plenty of things to improve. This is just kind of a toy problem for the time being, but I think it's very hopeful. And if you think it's interesting, then check me out. I'm at arctouristlabs.com. I've got a place where you can subscribe and follow me on Twitter.